Today is May 2nd, 2015. Joining us on the porch is local musician Gregory Rosplock and coordinator of Rec and Youth Development for the Oswego County Youth Bureau, Brandon Morey.
The best place for family. What are you waiting for? Where friendships run deeper. Come join us on the porch. So glad you're on the porch.
Hey kids, it's another incredibly exciting episode of On the Porch Radio Hour. I sound tired, I know, but it's just because I got done just a few minutes ago, right before we started recording the show, hanging out with two of my buddies. We kind of pulled an all-nighter, but it wasn't the kind of all-nighter that you think about. We were just up all night. We haven't seen each other for a while, and we were reminiscing about our childhood days. You see, Brandon Morey and Gregory Rosplock and I all met when we were kids at a Tonka Hogan sleepaway camp. It was a poetic writing camp called Camp Onomatopoeia, and we hung out. We would stay up all night, write incredibly fun and meaningful prose, and talk about days back home. And we could never wait to get back to camp, so that we could hang out and see each other again. I think we were usually in cabin 13, which was the cabin that was way off in the back, that a lot of people were like, does it exist, does it not exist? But it was always our cabin. We would request it specifically, and we would hang out with the camp counselor. All the camp counselors got crazy names, and I think the camp counselor we had every year we were there was Arrowhead. And I'm not sure why they called him Arrowhead, other than his head kind of came to a weird point. But we weren't sure if that was really the case or not. But we were hanging out. Last night we all got together and we were just kind of reminiscing about the old days and our writing and our poetry and our haiku poems that we always would sneak in and we would write. We would get paper placemats in the dining hall. And we would sneak around, and we knew where certain girls would sit, and we would write haikus that we came up with the night before. We'd scribble them on their placemats, and then we would run over and hide and kind of like sit in our chairs and wait for them to look around to see who had written, who had written on their placemats. And sometimes we would draw pictures. But we just had a really, really bang up time at Camp Onomatopoeia, and we were just kind of reminiscing about those times and times we spent in canoes, and the one time that Gregory thought he'd be funny and he got in the canoe and took off before Brandon and I could get there, and then we started yelling to him and trying to tell him that we weren't allowed to go out in the canoes yet because it looked like there was something floating in the water, and our camp counselor Arrowhead thought he was like, it kind of looks like a body and we should really get the head counselor, and so Gregory was paddling straight for it, and we were really nervous that he was going to end up, with like an arm coming up on the paddle or something. And we were just, we were kids, and now we laugh about it. But then it was kind of scary. We thought Gregory was going to be scarred, but it turned out to be just like a big barrel or something. And Gregory pulled it out and brought it to shore, and then we played rodeo, I think, that day at camp, and we would chase each other around, and you had to jump in the barrel and hide from the bull before it got to you. But anyway, we'll share more of these stories later again at some point. But we're here with Brandon Morey, and we're going to hear more from him and Gregory Rosplock later. But for now, Gregory, you're on the porch.
Thanks for having me around the second time.
with everything in line. You become demoralized. I know that routine well myself. Just don't turn away your eyes. My mother told me, if you are feeling sick, clean the dirt from your nails and follow this simple track. The power in our restless mind can bring down the Empire State. Harness what you can in the day before your night refrain. Know that I will never try to cure, only support your cause. Against this falling out, you hear humble applause. My mother told me, if you are feeling sick, clean the dirt from your nails and follow this simple track.
Thanks, Gregory. I'm looking forward to hearing more of that later. This episode of On the Porch Radio Hour is brought to you tonight by 2x4s. It was 1924, and the increasing need for lumber, combined with the ability for mass transport by rail and water, led the lumber and forestry industries to create a table of standardized lumber and board measurements. This standardization of board size, coupled with a need for efficient board production and use, led builders to most commonly choose 2x4s. From wall studs to treehouse construction to do-it-yourself patio furniture to the weapon of choice by legendary professional wrestler Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you can find people using 2x4s. I know when I started experimenting with scrap wood and building soapbox cars, I always used 2x4s. Is it the sturdy yet lightweight cut? Or is it that 2x4s have the ability to fit so nicely in your hand? Maybe it's just it's naturally pleasing to the eye and its aesthetics. Let's hear what this person has to say about 2x4s. The look of that 2x4 is nicer than looking at three men with beards. Thanks, Maud. Whatever it is, 2x4s have become the USA's #1 choice in construction material. So don't worry about the rumors and whispers you hear about the vanishing 2x4. Just because a 2x4 measures at 1.5 by 3.5 doesn't mean it's vanishing. This is not Marty McFly's photograph we're working with here. This is a finely honed pine plank, ready to serve and meet your needs. It's still the same 2x4 you've always known and loved. It's just the newer, slimmer, more efficient model. The iWood version 1.5 by 3.5, if you will. I shouted a loud thank you when I went over my first homemade plywood ramp with my bike, because underneath that plywood was a perfect 2x4 frame, giving me the support and security I needed to take to the sky from the height of a cinder block. So join right in, friends, and shout. Thank the transportation revolution. Thank standardization. Go ahead and grab Marty McFly and travel back to thank the folks of 1924 for their forethought and their ingenuity. And most of all, thank 2x4s. With the 2016 election and all of its campaigning quickly approaching, we are bringing you another update with our political correspondent, Tally Marks. Tally, we're reaching you in Las Vegas. Is that right?
That's correct, Matthew. I'm here in Las Vegas following up on some intense political showdowns.
Really? What's the big news on the political scene in Las Vegas?
After years of delays and backroom negotiations, the two biggest names will be squaring off this weekend right here in Sin City.
Yeah? Who's that, Tally?
Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao are facing each other in what is considered the biggest debate in a generation. It also carries the largest sum of money to ever be earned by candidates, which will be over $200 million. What more can you ask for from such an incredible political debate?
How about actual politics, Tally?
Whatever do you mean, Matthew?
Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao are welterweight division boxers.
As in punching jabs, not verbal jabs?
That's correct.
Well, that explains a lot. I wondered why there were posters of these two gentlemen all over with their shirts off, and how two politicians were in such good physical condition. And why they are wearing such big mittens. I thought they were just there to keep their hands warm because they would be debating topless.
Wow. You really...
Had you going there for a minute. I know better than that, silly show host. I am in Las Vegas for a wedding. Nothing politically influential happens in Nevada.
Ha ha ha. Good one. All right, Tally. So how about the road to the White House?
Right. What we have so far are two short lists and two very long lists. They break down like this. The short lists first. The Republican Party has 3 declared candidates, which means Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Marco Rubio are actual presidential candidates. And Hillary Clinton is, so far, the only declared Democratic candidate. The possible candidate lists are much longer. For the Democratic Party, there are 11 potential candidates, and for the Republican Party, there are 16 possibilities. These 2 potential candidate lists consist mostly of senators and governors, with the exception of a member of the House of Representatives, a retired pediatric neurosurgeon, and a former CEO of Hewlett-Packard.
Boy, that's quite a cast of characters. How can we weed through the large number of candidates to see what their main platforms are?
Well, that's the true task. It's hard to get to the root of topics each candidate is putting out as their main focus. There are a lot of terms and generalizations to decipher and to really understand what they are talking about. All candidates now have their own websites, and some are even connected to the websites of their supporters. And some even have a candidate Facebook page. You can use an internet search to find 2016 presidential candidates, and you should be able to find pages that list them all out. From there, you can search the individuals you wish to learn more about. It's that simple. As we get closer to the primary debates, you will hear more from me, Tally Marks, right here with On the Porch Radio Hour. Not your main election news source, but definitely your most fun and clear-talking election news source.
Starting at the age of 8, Brandon Morey has not missed a summer of camp for 24 years. And now he's working with kids at Camp Hollis. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, man. So before the show, Brandon and I were having a conversation. We were kind of hanging out, chatting, talking about our days of old at camp. We were discussing things like budgets and funding for camps, and we fell onto the topic of importance of camp, and that's something that I think maybe I'm biased because I have a camp background too, But I think that that's something that's, I'm going to use the word important again, but it's really important to kind of touch on that. So I'd like to start the interview a little bit, Brandon, with hearing some of your take on that and the importance of camp and what camp, maybe did for you and what it does for other people too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's very important. Going to camp for me, it was what you did. I grew up, I went to camp every summer. Me and my brother, we both went to a Boy Scout camp, and we raised our own money to go to camp. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so that was our vacation. That was what we did over the summer.
That's right.
I feel like a lot of the important things I learned at camp, and I learned being outside. It obviously led me down my career path. Before I wanted to run a camp, I was going to be an electrician. So it's kind of a varied career path. But I kind of sat back and I realized that if I don't do anything with my life, I really just want to make the world a better place. And, I thought that camp was going to be my way to do that. And I still think that to this day. I think that camp teaches you a lot. It teaches you who you are, independence. It teaches you just how to exist as a group and exist as a whole and a collective. And, so that's what I'm trying to pass on.
That's right. There's something too that we didn't touch on necessarily, but as a side note, another thing that we were talking about is that you graduated from a really small class.
Yeah.
28 kids, right?
28 kids. 3 of them were actually exchange students, so really it was only going to be 25.
25 local kids that you graduated from high school with. There are a lot of schools like that, especially in the area. One thing that camp did for me and that I saw it do for other kids too is that I was a really competitive kid growing up. I was in sports, and that's what I did. And the times that I got to go to camp was really fascinating because there were kids that went to camp with me to know that were from other schools and other schools that I could competed against in the sports that I was in. And so for a kid like you too to be going to a small school, there's more kids than that at camp.
Yeah. I mean, there was more kids at the camp that I went to each week that was in my K through 12 school. So I went to, and I grew up going to Henderson Scott Reservation. I loved it. It was my hometown camp, and it was nice because a lot of the same kids went each year at the same time I went. So it was like, these buddies that you make at camp, they were there every year. So like it just created this really nice community, and I don't know. I don't know if that's lacking so much in the world, but I definitely think more of it can't hurt.
That's right.
So
yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I think we hear a lot of debate about too is the use of Facebook and social media sites and parents and city officials and teachers and people that are working with kids are trying to find ways to get these kids outside, to get them away from those. Disconnect them. Yeah, and to disconnect them from that stuff, unplug a little bit. Mm-hmm. One thing that I think those social media sites do is they help those kids stay in contact throughout the year.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really nice to get them together and be in person too, right?
Yeah, communicate face to face is huge. And I think, what I can say, the good thing about, like you said, about Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff is that these kids are now keeping in touch all year. Whereas when I went to camp, they were my camp buddies. I saw them once or twice a year, and it was like, we met up in the parking lot or we met up at the campsites or around flagpole, and it was like, oh my gosh, there you are, we're back, and like, you hug and high five. And whereas now these kids, like, they can talk about their experience and they can get each other jazzed up for camp.
That's right.
So there's definitely a silver lining to that.
Sure, absolutely. So this is your 5th year working with Camp Hollis.
5th year, yep.
Are you using any of that social media stuff to your advantage?
We're trying. Myself, not so much. I've kind of remained blissfully ignorant of the whole social media thing, but through the Youth Bureau, we have a few Facebook pages. We have a Camp Hollis Facebook page. We have a Youth Bureau Facebook page. Another park that I oversee is Camp Zerby, and we're gonna work on getting a Facebook page for that too. And cool. It's definitely helped with outreach because that's how a lot of people are keeping in touch and getting their news and stuff. So we're getting a lot of word out there that way. But myself, I'm not using it yet.
Right.
So I haven't bent yet. So
excellent. I definitely admire that. How are you finding your numbers so far as you're getting ready for the upcoming camp season?
Really good, actually. Last year was the best year we had since I had been there. We're pretty unique in that we are county owned. Mm-hmm. a typical summer residential camp, it could go anywhere up to $300 for a kid to attend. We operate on a sliding scale. Most of our kids pay $35 or $65 to go for the week.
That's incredible.
Which is huge. We also have a fantastic Friends organization, Friends of Camp Hollis. They sit there and last year they provided 90 scholarships.
That's
or just shy of 90, right around, to send kids to camp. And we also teamed up with Department of Social Services, and they sent 100 kids to camp.
Okay.
So, there's right there, that's 190 kids who would not have been able to go to camp. They got to go to camp, and it didn't financially tax the family, which is huge, especially nowadays. So our numbers are good, and we're kind of right in line with last year with our numbers this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking good.
Good for you, man.
Feeling happy. So
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Take us through a day of camp, or tell us a little bit about what kids are getting at Camp Hollis.
Okay. Typical day, they get up 7 o'clock. Kids can get up and do polar bear, jump in the cold pool. We encourage the counselors to do it, even though the counselor's a little bit hesitant to do it, but the kids love it. 7:30 is a wake-up call for everybody. About 10 to 8, we go down to flagpole, we raise a flag, we say our good mornings. 8 o'clock, we sit down to breakfast. All of our meals are served family style, so it gives the kids a good opportunity to talk with other kids, talk with different counselors. Plus, we really find that we work on those pleases and those thank yous, and encourage them to eat their green beans before they have their Oreos, sort of thing.
Right.
Then they break off into their groups. They go through 5 core activities: swimming, sports, nature, arts and crafts, and team building. They go through 3 of those activities. They're about 50 minutes long. Then we sit down and have lunch. We have rest time. After rest time, we do the last 2 rotation periods, and then half of the camp does free swim while the other half does cabin group time, and then we switch. After that is dinner time. And then after dinner, depending on the day, but we usually do free time, all camp activity, snack. And then at all camp activity are our camper campfire, where the kids, they put on songs or skits for the rest of the camp, or we do our candlelight ceremony, which is a nice, kind of calm culmination to the week, and we say what we liked about camp and what the kids liked, their favorite parts, and then we have our Thursday night rewards.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's a pretty traditional experience for the kids, actually.
Sure.
So
that's real nice. Yeah. And you're in an incredible location,
Yes.
on the lake shore.
Right there, we have the best sunsets.
Absolutely.
So can't beat it.
That's
Can't
right.
beat it. Funny story about the sunsets. My sister-in-law got married out of Camp Hollis. Beautiful wedding. It was this big, beautiful wedding. And they had dinner right when the sun was setting. And at that point, I had been out there 4 years already, so I was kind of I was hungry. And
Right.
we sat down for dinner right as the sun was setting, and everyone was getting up and looking at the sunset, snapping pictures, getting pictures taken, and I kind of looked over my shoulder. I was like, meh, I've seen better. And I went right back to eating. So, I'm really spoiled out there with my office out there 6 months out of the year. I see sunsets out there all the time. So it's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Beautiful place.
It really is. And
Yeah.
The time that I've spent out at Camp Hollis, it seems like all parts of the day are really incredible for different things. And sunset is just a huge piece of that.
Huge.
There's really nicely groomed nature trails out there. There's a really great ropes course.
Yeah.
Hollis has a lot to offer. The cabins are in really good shape. They have bathrooms in each cabin.
We have bathrooms. We're getting new beds in all of them. We just got a new high ropes course. So yeah, we're really working out there. So
that's
trying to get a playground now.
Nice.
So our playground that's my next step. I really want that playground.
Good for you.
So
could use an upgrade.
A little bit. A little bit.
Right.
It's like circa 1954 or something like that. Right. So
okay, so explain to our listeners how they can best be in touch with you and to talk about, if there's information someplace that they can find stuff about what you're talking about, the camperships, the scholarships, that kind of stuff.
Best way, we have so much information on the website. It's OswegoCounty.com /youth. That's the website for the Youth Bureau. Then there's links to Camp Hollis and things like that. You can also call the Youth Bureau, 315-349-3451. You can call the Youth Bureau. You can talk to Jen. You can talk to myself, or call right at the camp. I'm actually out there now. I love giving tours. I love answering questions. So we also have our open house on May 17th from 1 to 4. So if people want to come out and see the camp, I'm always like a proud pop. I like to kind of walk around and show people what we got. So
that's right.
So yeah. So
cool.
And plus we have a Facebook page, Camp Hollis on Facebook. So
I know that from my camp experience in the past, if you're a new parent, if you're new kids that want to go to camp, to go to an open house, to get a hold of you and get a tour, to get your get your questions answered. That's the most ideal way to do it, because to be on the campground and to see that stuff, it's a no-brainer at that point. You know, you really want to send your kids. You really want to go to camp.
And as a parent, I mean, as a parent myself, you know, I would want to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable with the place that my child's going. So, you know, to go out there and actually see the grounds and, you know, meet the supervisors, meet the directors and stuff is huge for parents as well. So I encourage parents to really come and soak in the open house as well.
That's right. Yeah, make that connection is super important. All right, I have one last question.
Okay.
Why are you going to send your 3 children to camp?
One, because it's the best camp in Oswego County.
That's right.
So that's kind of a no-brainer. 2, I think that it offers a traditional experience that a lot of camps now don't offer. There's so many specialty camps out there, and I don't want my kids. I want my kids to go to summer camp I don't want them to go to summer camp so that they can become better in soccer, or that they can continue on with, you know, music lessons if they choose to play an instrument, or an academic camp. Like I want them to understand that there are more things to life, and that you can really discover who you are at summer camp. So
that's right.
You know, that's why I want my kids to go.
Yeah, good for you.
So
me too.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Brandon, for being on the show, and make sure you folks are paying attention, that you wrote those phone numbers down, because you know you can go back if you're listening to this archived. You know, just hit that little button and drag it back a little bit and get the address, get the phone number. Call Brandon, call the Youth Bureau, and stop out and see Camp Hollis. It's a really great place, and a really fantastic place to have your kids. And thanks for being on the show again, Brandon.
Thank you so much
it's really
for having
great
me.
to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks.
All right, man. I'll see you at Hollis.
You got it.
All right. You, my friends, are listening to On the Porch Radio Hour. Be back in just a minute.
What's happening in Central New York is brought to us by iHeart Oswego. The SUNY Oswego Theater Department presents Arcadia by Tony Award-winning playwright Tom Stoppard. Performances are tonight at 7:30 p.m. and tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Call 312-2141 for more information. Glengarry Glen Ross closes tonight at the CNY Playhouse. Visit cnyplayhouse.com for more information. Seussical, the musical, opens tonight at the Red House and runs for 3 weekends. Visit theredhouse.org for more information. Of Mice and Men, presented by the Oswego Players, closes tomorrow. Visit oswegoplayers.org for more information. The Oswego Music Hall hosts an open mic night with Joanne Troy Perry on Friday, May 8th at 7 p.m. And the Jean Rowe Band performs on Saturday, May 9th at 7:30 p.m. Visit oswegomusichall.org for more information. CNY Arts Center hosts a Writers Cafe the last Sunday of the month, with the next session on May 31st. The Arts Center is also currently offering adult painting classes and writing classes. And in conjunction with the Wooden Apple Farmstead, CNY Arts Center hosts the Red Room Open Mic, a time for anyone to come and share their music and stories, or just come and listen. The event is free and begins tonight at 6 p.m. Visit cnyartscenter.com for more information. The Red Room Sessions at the Wooden Apple Farmstead is a time for songwriters, musicians, and anyone else who wants to build their musical skill and knowledge to get together. We share songs we are working on, bounce musical ideas off of each other, and we usually have time to just play a little music. This is a supportive environment where all levels of songwriting and musical experience are welcome. The next session is tomorrow at 6 p.m. The Wooden Apple Farmstead also offers a wild edible CSF through the summer months. This is a specialty niche of community-supported agriculture. It is an opportunity to learn much more about the food that grows right around us. Between late May and early September, participants will receive 7 boxes with 2 wild edibles in each box. The box will include information about each plant, including identification tips and a recipe to try. Some of the wild edibles will be already prepared before going into the boxes. All members of the CSF will be invited to participate in foraging identification walks throughout the growing season. Contact the Wooden Apple Farmstead on Facebook or at 315-591-0711 for more information.
We're back on the Porch Radio Hour, and we're going to start off the second half of the show with a return guest. Gregory Rosplock has been on the Porch Radio Hour. He's been a guest at the Red Room songwriting sessions, and he's been highlighted at the Red Room open mic, as well as hosting the Oswego Music Hall's open mic. Gregory's been around with his guitar, and there have been lots of folks that have heard this man sing and play, and I'm glad that quite a few of those folks are listening to him right here on the Porch Radio Hour. Gregory, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. It's really cool to have you back on the show because now we've gotten the initial interview. You know, people are committed listeners. They know you. They know your background. And now we can get to, like, the meat and taters. You know what I'm saying?
The nitty-gritty.
That's right. So you have, since we last chatted on the Porch, you've been working the guitar. You've been around. Tell us about where some of the places you've been.
I mean, it's mainly been at the Oswego Music Hall, at the McCorby Building in Oswego. I mean, that place it's just it's comfortable for me, and they brought me in to host, and that was really special and a bit nerve-wracking because you got to stick to the schedule. There's a bit of a script going on, so you got to kind of get in tune with that. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of stuck with that, and I've kind of been playing a lot, just at home, kind of. Trying to see where I should go next, with it all. There's always an idea rolling around in there somewhere, but, you kind of got to pick and choose, what you want to do. And so, yeah, it's just been some thought processes going on, but awesome. Kind of waiting for the next thing to come along.
That's right. And it's always good to hear the next thing that you have. It seems like, every time we see you at the music hall or you're here at a Red Room session, we're hanging out. It seems like you're giving proof of what you were just talking about. We're seeing you doing different things with your guitar, trying new stuff out, trying out songs that you're writing, playing around with those kinds of things. How many songs do you think you've written in total?
Well, it depends on what you count as a song.
Good answer.
There's plenty of stuff that I've, quote unquote, written.
Right.
It never quite made it out of a room.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's probably around like 40 or 50.
Awesome.
I mean, that's just along the years, but, you can't, the thing is that they've never been, the same.
Right.
The way I first wrote songs was completely different to how I'm doing it now. Mm-hmm. My style of guitar playing is different. My style of singing is different. My influences are different. And I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, because it's you're always coming at it from a different perspective. And, I used to be kind of, I guess a little bit closed-minded about, my musical influences when I was younger. I wasn't so open to other newer things or at least new to me. And, definitely within the past few years, I've let myself kind of listen to other things and, whatever it is, and just kind of gain whatever I can out of it. And, but also being around other creative people helps a lot too, and seeing how they do it. And it gives you a bit of confidence because you see they're struggling maybe with the same things that you are.
Right.
Or, having the same ideas that you are. So, that contributes to it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a great segue. Thanks. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that was cool. If it was intentional, well done.
It was.
All right. Attaboy. Big help.
Maybe.
So things like open mics at the music hall, things like the Red Room session open mic that we're going to be having. It's tonight.
Tonight at 6 o'clock.
Goodness
at the
gracious.
CNY Arts Center.
That's right. So
Fulton, New York.
Man. So, yeah. So, wow. I lose track of my schedule. So tonight, we're going to be at the Red Room open mic at the CNY Arts Center in Fulton at the Cayuga Community College Extension site, down toward where Kmart used to be. There's a building down there, has an awesome stage, has a really welcoming environment. The last Red Room open mic that we had, I thought was well attended and had some had a whole variety of folks. Gregory, you were there, and of course Gina and I were there. And there were some folks of all sorts of different levels, and there were some folks that were trying out stuff for the first time, people that were trying out new things, and people that were just, playing some of their older things and just, giving a good show. And, that's one of the goals of the Red Room, that we host here. That's what's tomorrow, is the Red Room session.
Yes.
That we'll have here at the Wooden Apple Farmstead, for people to come and try out the stuff that they're writing. It's a really welcoming environment. That's one of the biggest pieces that we want to make sure we're promoting, is that it's all about being welcoming and allowing people to try stuff out. I bring a different story every Red Room session and try out some ideas, and sometimes those ideas make it to something public, and sometimes, I can them. A lot of that is based on the feedback that I get, which I always appreciate, and I think really comes in very comfortable, casual ways. And the open mic is really nice too, because it allows people that have been, maybe some folks that have been to the Red Room sessions at the farm, are trying out some of the things that they've written and have tried out in the living room here, and then they're taking it to a public forum. And we've even had people that haven't attended a Red Room session that come for the open mic and to try it out and check it out. And that's a good way to get introduced to the folks that come to the Red Room songwriting sessions too. How do you think you could explain, Gregory, your first experience of sitting down for a Red Room session?
Yeah. I can't place what month it was. It was well attended, and like you said, most of the people there, if not all, I've met before, and I think there was one individual who I hadn't met yet, but it was just extremely supportive and beneficial in that, you were just, there was never like a feeling of like, what are you doing? It's just do what you want to do, and we'll give you advice and constructive support, where we think is appropriate. And, it's nice to have, it's a lot like an art critique. Like when I used to be in art school for a brief period, it's that same kind of, everybody gets their 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, they're to be, at the fore and get that. A lot of people sometimes need that, I think. They need that, just that, I can't think of another word for it, just that support.
Right.
Because, they've been playing in their living room for months, and they haven't had feedback from anybody else. So, you start to think, is this even any good? So when you get it in that, you can play an open mic and have people applaud, but that's almost sometimes thought of, at least sometimes for me, it's felt like, that that's what they're supposed to do, like you're supposed to applaud. But when you get it in a more intimate setting, that intimate support, I think that's really beneficial, and I think I gain a lot more from that.
I agree.
In that environment.
There's times that I'll start out the evening and I think, I'm not going to share anything. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to listen. It's not my night. I'm not into it. And then I hear a couple of songs and I hear the feedback that people are getting, and I start giving feedback, and then I think, yeah, who cares? If it bombs, if it doesn't bomb, it'll be nice. It'll feel good. And like you were just saying, I'm not just getting an applause. I'm not just getting that, what sometimes feels like, okay, the song's over, the story's over. I'll applaud. I'll say great job when you walk by, and we'll leave it at that. And so it's really nice for me to get that feedback, and I really appreciate that you were saying that, because sometimes that's all it takes is for you to get there. If they can get to the open mic, if they can get here to the farm, you're walking into a supportive place where you can now share a piece of yourself.
It's definitely creative, It's just like you were saying, I felt that way sometimes, whether I be at an open mic or here or any place else, I'll get there and I'll just be like, am I just going to play the same song over again?
Right.
And then, you kind of get in your own head maybe a bit, but when you start to hear other people share themselves, it makes you want to share yourself. So,
That's right.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it is good. So we've been talking a while about that process.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, you don't have to, but you're going to play a song for us in a minute. You do have to do that. Is the song that you're playing, is that something that we've heard at a Red Room or? Awesome.
No, this one, I played this one at an open mic.
Okay.
It was one of the nights that the Oswego Music Hall, I know it's been getting more and more popular, which is awesome, within the past few months. And it was one of the nights where I showed up in true Rosplock fashion, right at 7, maybe a little bit late. And, I mean, the list was like full almost already. And, I got last. And so I just played one song and this was that song. So
thanks, Gregory.
You're welcome.
Before I have you tune up and start playing, I just want to remind everybody that we have a Red Room songwriting session tomorrow night. That's Sunday, May 3rd. And tonight, if you're listening right now, it's tonight, Saturday, May 2nd, 6 o'clock at the Cayuga Community College Extension site in Fulton, the CNY Arts Center. Come down, hang out, bring your instrument, bring your voice, bring a story, bring a poem, share your stuff from days back at Camp Onomatopoeia and get some support. Hang out. There'll be snacks. There'll be really cool people.
There's a special prize for someone who can make a lyric with the word onomatopoeia in it.
Oh, yeah. There will be.
Yes.
If somebody comes with a song lyric or a poem or even a story, and I'll avoid including Camp Onomatopoeia in my story so that somebody else can feel like they can do that. Bring it, and we'll have a special prize for you.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. I know we'll be there. Gregory, thanks for being on the porch again. Thanks for sharing.
Having me again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being part of our community.
Happy to be the first repeat guest.
Yes, sir. It'll go down in history. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gregory Rosplock, everybody.
First guess is usually right. This all arose from lack of daylight. My inspiration came at a cost. Within that I haven't lost. While feeling more haunted than most, I'll try to impress your ghost. The ocean that drains from my eyes, drown out a fire inside. No matter the circumstance, from myself once more. Small attempt to make up some ground. empty sounds. Just give me something written down. To place within the depths of a song. I tried so hard just to fit in. Yet I'm blinded by whole sin. A simple future at your side. With a heavy heart and heavy eyes. With a heavy heart and heavy eyes.
Do you think that because you're our first repeat musician that maybe you'd give us another song?
Yeah, I just got to change my tuning, if that's okay.
I wish you would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gregory. Gregory Rosplock again.
This is one of the few songs that has a name that I've written. It's called Ontario.
I've been abroad, searching for my mind. Little did I know, they call your time. It's in the little thing. I will hold dear. So just give me time to wipe away the tears after all of your sacrifice. It's a shame that I'm asking why you had to go. For I came home to this sweetest soul. Oh, never Ontario. The last words I said before I left your room in such arrogance. I'll see you when I see you, and of your sacrifice. bless this sweetest soul. And little Ontario.
Who's to say I'm sitting nicely with sanity? Sometimes I just really want to throw out reality, and I try to learn as much as I can, but I'm still left with who I am. And every time fear comes here knocking, I have to let her in, 'cause I don't want her to keep walking. I can say, come in, sit down, why are you here again? She looks up and grins, says, all right, this time you win. Dressed in blue and headed out, and I'm still here with you and a little worn out, and confidence is in yellow, hiding in the corner, and longing's in green, and I'm somewhere in between. And I know my country's in quite a fix. He plays with the world like it's a giant game of pick-up sticks. Someday we may all come crashing down. Then what will we see when we look around? Now that anger is dressed in blue and headed out, and I'm still here with you and still a little worn out. Confidence is in yellow and hiding in the corner, and longing's in green, and I'm somewhere in between. In between. And it's hard to get anything done. It's hard to know where to start from, and I think we might have made a really good team, but you had all the friends that you needed. Now anger is dressed in blue, headed out, and I'm still here with you and still a little worn out. Confidence is in yellow and hiding in the corner. Longing's in green, and I am somewhere in between. I have finally learned how to love who I want to. I've torn down the fences of the things people said I should do, 'cause truth came walking in, and she was stunning. She brought laughter, and he was just the right thing. Now anger is dressed in blue and headed out, and I'm still here with you and a little worn out. Confidence is in yellow and hiding in the corner, and longing's in green, and I am somewhere in between. 'Cause anger is dressed in blue, and I'm still here with you, and confidence is hidden in the corner, and longing's in green, and longing, and I am in between. Thanks.
April 11th, 2015. I had just finished giving what was the second eulogy that I have given. And as I walked down from the pulpit, walked past the casket of my grandfather, I looked up and saw the sun shining through the stained glass windows of the church. And it felt like I stopped. I don't think I stopped. I think I kept walking. And I think to everybody outside of me, never saw me stop, never saw me go through the process. But as I looked through that stained glass window, I stopped and everything melted away, and it reminded me of a time almost exactly 18 years before. Not almost exactly, it actually was exactly 18 years before, on April 11th, 1997. And I was laying in the bottom of a stream, just a t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. And the water was high because it was spring, and it just washed completely over me. And although it felt like I'd been laying there for 10 minutes, I'm sure I can't hold my breath that long, but there I was, just laying in the bottom of the stream. And I opened my eyes at the right time, when through the surface of the water broke this hand, and it grabbed my arm and pulled me up out of the stream. And it was Grandfather, and there we stood on the shore, me dripping wet, and him just pointing across the stream. And he said, "Do you see that?" And it was early for dragonflies to be flitting around across the top of a stream, but there they were, all these dragonflies flitting across the top of the stream. And I said, yeah, I see that. It does seem strange, doesn't it? And he just had a smile on his face, and he said, no, it doesn't seem strange at all, because, you see, dragonflies are what many in Tonkahogan believe to be the transporters of souls. And when somebody dies, the dragonflies swoop through the air, and they collect those souls, and they fly them into the next world. That is their job. That is why dragonflies flit across the top of the water like that. Because the water is part of that transition. The water is part of that cleansing space that dragonflies have to fly through to get those souls into the next world, into that next plane. And it's because of dragonflies that we have stained glass windows. That's what my grandfather explained. He said that kings knew that story. They knew the story about how dragonflies carry our souls into the next plane, into the next world. And if you look at those dragonflies' wings and you hold them in the light, or if they fly in front of you and they catch the light just right, you can see all those different colors come through the almost transparent wings of the dragonflies. Reds and oranges and greens and purples and pinks, just beautiful swirling. And as the dragonflies drop up and down as they fly across the water, you can follow those colors, and it creates pictures and images. And that's, kings wanted those stained glass windows in their castles and in their buildings and their churches, because they wanted to be reminded constantly of when they were going to get their ride, when their soul was going to latch onto a dragonfly and be carried safely into the next world. And I turned to my grandfather and I said, well, what about these dragonflies here? Why are they just seem to be hovering right in the middle of the water? They're not going across, they're not going anywhere, they're just bobbing up and down. He said, those are the dragonflies that are carrying the souls that are hesitant. They're not ready to let go quite yet. So the dragonfly does its job and just hangs out and lets them be there. And eventually they'll go. And sure enough, we stood there long enough to watch every single one of those dragonflies that was just hovering. Eventually they'd take a quick turn, and off they went. And then more would show, and they would go. And that's when Grandfather put his arm around me, and he said, I came down here looking for you. I thought you might be here. It's usually where I went, usually laid in the stream when I needed to take a break, when I needed to almost feel like one of those souls on the back of the dragonfly and just kind of hang in that in-between space between this world and the next. And he put his arm around me and he said, if we listen long enough and hard enough, I bet we can find out which dragonfly it is that's carrying your mother's soul right now. And of course, I'm sure we both formed our opinions. I know I did. But neither one of us said it out loud. We just watched and smiled, had our arms around each other, and eventually Grandfather turned to me and said, we need to get you in some dry clothes, and we need to go see the rest of your family. And as I walked back up the bank, back up toward my car, I turned and felt the sun on my face just one last time, really warm, bright. And when I opened my eyes, I was standing next to my grandfather's casket in the church, still walking back to my seat after having given his eulogy. And I smiled, just like we did as we stood there on the stream side that day, and smiled just like we did as we walked back to our cars, and smiled just like we did as we both felt the sun on our faces. And I remember feeling the sun on my face and closing my eyes one last time before I got into the car. And just as I was reaching for the car handle, the wind picked up, just enough that I could hear the whispers, that my grandfather was talking about. And this incredible harmony in this chorus of souls. And as I sat back down in the pew that day in church, I could hear it again. And they sang, "This is my home. This is my only home. This is the only sacred ground that I have ever known. And should I stray in the dark night alone, rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden. Rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden." And that, my friends, brings us to the close of another incredible episode of On the Porch Radio Hour. And I want to thank our very special guests, Brandon Morey, working at Camp Hollis, diligently getting kids into camp and doing really solid work. Thanks for being at the Youth Bureau, Brandon, and thanks for the hard work that you do. And I want to thank Gregory Rosplock for being here a second time, being on the show, helping us talk about the Red Room sessions and the open mic. Check them out, friends. It's really cool. Even if you don't have something to share, it's okay to come out to the farm and just listen. It's okay to come to the open mic and listen, because it's people like you that support local folks like us and give everybody a chance to be heard. And that's really important. And I want to thank everybody that's listening on Concert Window. Thanks for tuning in, even though you can't be in-house. And I want to thank the in-house audience, too. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It was really fantastic. Until next week, friends, peace to your journey.
On the Porch is a production of the Wooden Apple Farmstead, with host and writer Matthew Wood. Our musical director, sound technician, and writer is Gina Holsapple. Our stage manager is Ray Monet. Special guests include Gregory Rosplock and Brandon Morey. Find information about past shows, being on the porch, and much more online at ontheporch.weebly.com.